Good morning and welcome everyone. I am excited to make another set of announcements in terms of people who are joining the administration to serve the people of Louisiana. Specifically this morning, I am announcing that Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources is going to be Tom Harris. And Tom currently serves as the administrator for the Technology Assessment Division with the Department of Natural Resources. He spent 10 years prior to that with the Department of Environmental Quality here in Louisiana. Overall, he's got 20 years of executive management experience, and he's a graduate of both LSU and Tulane University. And he'll come up and make some remarks in just a few moments. I'm also very pleased to announce this morning that as Secretary for the Department of Children and Family Services, we will be served by MARKETA Walters, who's worked for more than 20 years to improve the lives of children. She is currently the president of M & Company, a consulting firm with expertise in child and family services. She also previously served as Assistant Secretary of the Office of Community Services in the former Department of Social Services here in Louisiana. And I'm also very pleased this morning to announce that as Commissioner of Conservation, I am naming Richard Ayub, who previously served as Attorney General for the state from 1992 to 2004, and prior to that was Calcasieu Parish District Attorney from 1984 to 1992. Richard is a graduate of McNeese State University and the law school at LSU. As Executive Director of the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, I am naming Michael Ellis. Michael currently is the Louisiana manager, primarily focused on coastal sustainability projects and municipal water and wastewater projects for HDR Engineering. He's a licensed engineer in the state of Louisiana, and he's got 19 years of engineering and environmental consulting for Louisiana's coastal restoration efforts and also with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And finally, for my announcements this morning, joining the administration as the Executive Director of the Delta Regional Authority is Leslie Durham. And I'm very proud to have Leslie working back for the state. She previously worked under the Blanco administration, doing a lot of things for that region of our state as well. So at this time, I'm going to ask for Tom Harris and MARKETA to come up in that order and offer some comments, and then they will be followed by Senator Nevers, who has a couple of announcements to make, as I guess I should not call him Senator Nevers anymore, Chief of Staff Ben Nevers, who will have a couple of announcements to make.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Governor Edwards for this incredible opportunity to be a part of his team. I'm honored and really humbled to serve the citizens of this great state as a steward of Louisiana's abundant natural resources that are such a critical part of both our economy and our culture. As Secretary of DNR, we will promote the sustainable and responsible use of these natural resources so that they are available for the benefit and enjoyment of our citizens now and in the future. We will provide a fair, predictable, and effective regulatory system that will allow opportunities for development and economic growth while ensuring protection of public safety, human health, and the environment. I look forward to working tirelessly to make this a reality. Thank you again, Governor Edwards, for your confidence in me in carrying out your vision for Louisiana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Well, like Tom, I want to thank the governor for this opportunity. I am thrilled to be back and working in DCFS. I look forward to working with the men and women in that organization that work tirelessly to protect children and families and to make sure that we have the economic securities for all of our citizens that need help in this state. We are a dedicated team at DCFS, and we know we have some work to do, and I'm thrilled to be serving under a governor who is putting children first and is excited about making this department and the life for our children and families in Louisiana a high priority. So I'll be looking forward to talking to all of you over the next few years. Thank you, Governor.
Good morning, and certainly it's my distinct pleasure to announce 2 executive staff members that will be added to the current staff. Currently, we certainly have Aaron Wesley, as you know, serving as Director of, Special Counsel, and under her authority comes Legislative Affairs, in which today I'm announcing that the Legislative Director under her leadership will be Noble Ellington. Currently serves as Chief Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Insurance. He has certainly a strong background in legislative and business matters. He has served this great state for 24 years in the legislature, so I think most of you know Noble. But we also are proud to announce his Press Secretary, Shauna Sanford, a native of Shreveport, Louisiana, 20 years in radio and television in both Baton Rouge and New Orleans, most recently with the Louisiana Public Broadcasting. We're excited to have Shauna round out our communications teams, and it really completes our communication team. And we're just proud to have both of these members join the governor's staff. Thank you. The governor will come back to the podium at this time and certainly address budget issues as well as other questions.
Thank you, Ben. I did want to take just a moment, since we're all gathered here today, to make sure that everyone understands that while I was here last week and proposed some measures designed to alleviate the budget crisis, the revenue shortfall, the budget deficit, whatever you want to call it, we all need to keep in mind that this is the single worst budget deficit in the history of the state of Louisiana. And the fact of the matter is, it's worse by a factor of 2 than we were aware of as recently as November of last year. And part of leadership is taking ownership of the situation, not that you might want to inherit, but what that you've actually inherited. And as a result, the proposals that I made are different than I talked about in the election, because the facts are different. And they're not different in a way that make them better, they are harder. And so the proposals have to be equal to the challenge. And as I mentioned to you all, they were not the proposals that I wanted to be making and so early in the first month of my administration, but it's the most prudent thing to do when you understand that not only do we have a $750 million shortfall in the current year, which is likely to grow when we have the next revenue estimating conference on February the 10th, and a $1.9 billion shortfall for the year thereafter, which too is likely to grow after the next revenue estimating conference. The fact of the matter is, this is the 8th straight year of revenue shortfall. All of the relatively easy things to do in terms of cuts were done a long time ago. All of the relatively easy and painless things that you can do to find savings and efficiencies were done a long time ago. We simply are in a place now where, in order to preserve the most basic and essential services that this state engages in, and which the public rightfully demand that we engage in, we cannot do that and sustain cuts on that order of magnitude. And so, as a result, I gave you the plan last week as to how I would avoid those cuts. But at the same time, we have to give information and a planning target for our agencies to deal with what could be significant revenue cuts in the event that we can't get the legislature to work with us and to implement the plan that I've given with them or given to them, or by working with me, find some other arrangement, which I'm obviously open to and willing to do that. And so you've seen a number of cuts that are not immediately being undertaken, but are in the planning process, especially as it relates to the higher education community and to health care. I want everyone to understand, John Bell Edwards does not want to implement those cuts. Those cuts are not my plan. My plan consists of the details that I gave you last week, dealing with the short-term problem of $750 million with a combination of cuts, using the rainy day fund, using the BP fund, and certainly some revenue as well. And for next year, the plan that I gave you, which relies upon revenue as well. So that's my plan. But our higher education institutions have to be prepared, because if they have to take cuts this year over the last few months, that is especially painful, because if you annualize those cuts, it is a huge amount that they would have to account for. And certainly that's true for our hospitals as well. And there are certain things that we are not absolutely required to do under CMS rules when it comes to the Medicaid program. And when you take a look at the numbers that we may have to accommodate in terms of cuts, you have to start with those things that you're not obligated to do under law, but those are very essential and vital services. I don't want to go there. That is not why you're seeing those numbers. But at the same time, it's prudent to have these folks in DHH and in the higher education community planning for any eventuality that might arise. Now, I am going to work extremely hard doing the things that I told you all that I was going to do. And we are going to sit down with every member of the legislature, and we've already started that with the leadership and with many members, rank and file members as well, to go through the situation, go through our proposals, see what it is that they accept, what they don't, and what alternatives that they are proposing, so that we can work together to fix these problems. Understand this: no part of the $1.9 billion is an additional dollar that accounts for inflation. There is no additional money there to account for merit raises for state employees. There's no money in there for a K through 12 funding formula increase. In the strictest sense of the phrase, this is a continuation budget. And to the extent that you don't account for inflation, it's actually a cut, because inflation is real. So I just wanted to clear that up, because there seems to be some confusion that on the one hand, I was proposing a series of measures to respond to the fiscal crisis, but I'm also proposing cuts. That is wrong. I am not proposing the cuts. We are planning for them in the eventuality that we have to undertake them. And yes, I am very much aware of what was said during the campaign by myself and others. I am also aware that the situation is worse by a factor of 2 than we thought it to be at the time. And it is time to stop living in fantasy land. It's time to stop pretending that things are better than they are. You're going to see honest budgeting. You're going to see responsible budgeting from me and from this administration, because that is the only way forward. I'll remain extremely excited and optimistic about the future of our state, but only because I know we're going to rise to the challenge, and we're going to fix our problems, and we're going to provide stability for the state of Louisiana in the short term, and transition to a better structure that over time is going to prove to be more predictable and more stable as well going forward.